page 12, top of the page, Lakuna Ranana from Psalm 95. Now page 13, Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash, the beginning of page 96. Page 20, Lechadodi. We welcome in the Shabbat presence with paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we come to the 9th one, we turn to welcome the Shabbat presence. We'll use this door, since this is the way most people came in.
זכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לילה לילה אדוני, לילה לילה לקראת כלה, לילה לילה בני שבת, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת Shabbat lechu v'nilhaki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh v'machshava tchila yael elai lecha dodi yael elai likrat kala yael elai b'nei Shabbat dekavelav Idorri kiva oreku miori uri shir daberi kavod Adonai alayich nigla yael elai lecha dodi yael elai likrat kala yael elai b'nei Shabbat dekavelav Boi v'shalom ateret bala kam b'simcha u'b'tzohala tov emunei am segula boi chala
Opportunity that before you sit down to wish someone Shabbat Shalom, maybe someone that you don't know. Page 22, Psalm for Shabbat.
Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Tov lehodot
Page 26, Chetzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shnei rabbah v'halemad v'rachirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'yamechon uv'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael Magala u'vizman gari v'yimeru Amen Yesh me'rabah mevorach la'olam le'al me'al שמי דקודשה, ריקו להילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, ושמחתה ונחמתה, תמירן מעלמה וימרו. Amen.
Please rise as you're able for Baruch, page 28.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma potech sha'arim, uvit'vuna mishana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakir kirsono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Turning the page.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו וחומנו, נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך. Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
You may be seated. We read in English on page 36. Thank you. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them, stay at home, and when you are away, when you lie down, and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments, and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. On page 39, and we read together in the middle of the page. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Page 42. We ask God to spread over us a shelter of peace, a Sukkot Shalom, nighttime. For sure this week it's much darker than it was last week at this time. Thinking about how at nighttime sometimes we feel sicker or we're more afraid or we have frightening thoughts, and we ask God to protect us and shield us. We especially thinking of those in our community, our family or friends who are in need of healing. We ask God for maybe a little extra Sukkot Shalom for them. Tonight we hold in our hearts Lot Ackerman, Dale Anderson, Julie Arnheim, James Barrett, Les Berkowitz, Alex Botkin, Jennifer Burnow, Dina Damas, Joanne DeWitt, Ann Fay, Jessica Fondy, Ken Franklin, Virginia Frank, Ari Gegel, Aryaman Halalka, Naum Kaplan, Sylvia Kasparowski, Al Camper, Todd Cart, Isabel Leindecker, Judith Levison, Susan Lothar, Joanne Mandel, Jonah Matoski, Beatrice Jean B.G. Morrison, Marco Massara, Fred Oringer, Lev Podorovsky, Jonathan Robeson, Oliver Scheibel, Nelson Shook, Drew Tomasi, Helen Marie Tyree, David Wallach, Dr. Malcolm Weiss, Ralph Wise, and Ruth Yar. Are there any other names from Misha Barak tonight? Go ahead. Misha Barak Avotenu v'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Hu Yivarach v'Rapah et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill.
Baruch atah, atah Adonai, Amorei Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai, Aborei Sukkot Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael.
Page 44 at the top of the page for Shamru.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם.
On page 46, we begin the tefillah. Please rise as you're able.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi anki tehillatech. Adonai, open up my lips and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב הושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחלקי חיים בחסד, לחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים באמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומדום מלך, מלך נמית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ולמען אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני בחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. On page 54, you set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah. The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Together at the bottom of the page. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant us our heritage, your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. On page 56, a prayer for prayer. Find favor, Adonai, Find favor, Adonai, our God, with your people Israel, and accept their prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call lovingly to your servants. Turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your spirit upon us. At the bottom, let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, amachazir shchinato l'Zion. And on page 58, a prayer of gratitude. Please join with me. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ucha na'eh l'hodot. And on page 60, Shalom Rav, we'll sing this one, pray for big, abundant peace. We follow Shalom Rav with our own silent prayers. some thoughts to share with you tonight. I have to say, I really love being able to hear you sing and read. It feels great. I don't know how you can give us feedback about being in this room versus being in the sanctuary. Not right now. I'm sorry. Not right now. But, let us know. We particularly like it from our perspective because we can hear you, but we'd like to hear what you think. So several times in the past week or so, I have passed a man with a sign on one or another of the corners at Penn and Braddock. His leg is in a cast, and I think the first time I saw him, he might have been wearing some kind of hospital gown in addition to whatever other clothes he was wearing. There were a lot of words on his sign, and I wasn't able to read all of them, but I did catch the first part, and it was something to the effect of, even if you just give me the finger, don't ignore me. Yeah, that's how I felt. This person's need for human connection is so strong that he would rather be cursed than ignored. I didn't know what to do, and I still don't. I didn't give him the finger. I'm especially focused on this man and his sign and his desire to be seen as I contemplate the story of Lot's wife in this week's Torah portion. In the Torah, she is simply Lot's wife, but the rabbis later on gave her a name, Edith. The incident in which Edith is turned into a pillar of salt, the text tells us Lot's wife turned back, and she thereupon turned into a pillar of salt, is part of the Sodom and Gomorrah narrative. To recap, for lack of a minion, 10 righteous people, God resolves to annihilate Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot, who lives in that neighborhood, is visited by two divine messengers, who are angels, malachim, who offer him and his family the opportunity to escape to safety. Lot tries unsuccessfully to get his sons-in-law together with his daughters to leave. And then finally, because Lot himself delays for so long, these messengers take him, his wife, and the two remaining daughters to the outskirts of the city and say to them, "Flee for your life. Do not look behind you, nor stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the hills, lest you be swept away." For some reason, Edith does look back at the city being pelted by sulfur and fire, and she is turned into a pillar of salt. So many questions. But top of the list is, what was the problem with looking? Traditional commentators offer some explanations. Here are a few of them. They link Lot to his personal possessions and say that he would be too worried about leaving his possessions, his material possessions, and so he shouldn't look back as if to worry about the things that he has. Another one is they shouldn't risk their lives by slowing down to hold on to the members of their family who they're leaving behind. Looking back or looking at them would slow them down and thereby endanger their own lives, because we can imagine that one of the commentators says the sulfur and the fire is just coming so quickly that it could get to them. Another commentary is that her punishment fits the crime, because there was a law, the Midrash tells us, there was a law in Sodom and Gomorrah that you couldn't entertain guests, that you couldn't show any hospitality. And so when Lot asked his wife to violate that law and give salt or put salt on the guests' food so that it would be tasty, she refused. 15th century Italian commentator, in other words, she wanted to be hospitable. 15th century Italian commentator Sforno teaches, "The evil will spread to you as if it were following you, but will not harm you. However, if you stop to look, it will overtake you and cleave to you." That is, the evil that infected the people of Sodom and Gomorrah would contaminate the people if they didn't get out of there fast enough. And then finally, she was disobedient. Her concern for her married daughters caused her to ignore the instructions of the messengers, who were, in fact, angels of God. So she was being disobedient to God. That last reason for me is the hardest one to accept. My inclination is to argue, of course she would look back. Her daughters were there. Her daughters were going to die. Her neighbors were going to die. Of course she looked back. She was deeply connected to the people there. But, and thank you, Rabbi Schiff, for talking this through with me, perhaps the problem was that Edith looked for too long at something about which she could do nothing. We know this type of looking for too long at a tragedy that we are helpless to do anything about, a crash alongside the road, photos of a tragic accident or act of violence, or pictures of war or disease. When we watch others in their most private moments, like when someone puts a microphone in front of someone who's just been a victim or had their family member be a victim, when we watch others in those most private moments in the midst of their pain and suffering, then it is no longer just looking. Then it is voyeurism. But what about when we can do something? When looking can lead to empathy, and empathy can lead to action which might alleviate or allow for an escape from or even prevent harm, then maybe we should be looking. We're reminded that earlier in this portion, Abraham, with both respect for God's judgment and compassion for the people, pleaded and bargained for the lives of the residents of Sodom and Gomorrah. You might remember he said, what if there are some righteous people there? Abraham ultimately had to concede when it was determined that there were fewer than 10 righteous people, but he tried. He had empathy. He wasn't just a voyeur. There are two other examples in the Torah portion, appropriately named Vayera. This week's Torah portion is named Vayera, which means that he appeared, which has to do with God, appearing, which has to do with vision, and when looking is helpful. So I hope I'm not getting too confused, but there's a lot of stories in this week's Torah portion. But Abraham and Hagar, in two separate events, see a last-minute way out of their otherwise tragic predicaments. Hagar, first, was fearful that her son Ishmael would die of thirst, and she looked and on the ground, and she found a well of water, and Ishmael's life was spared. Later, Abraham, about to sacrifice his son Isaac, looked and spotted a ram for the sacrifice. He looked up, and there he saw a ram, and that ram would sub in for Isaac, and Isaac's life was spared. Rabbi Betsy Torup suggests that the actions of, Rabbi Betsy Torup suggests that the actions of Lot's wife drew our attention to the ethics of looking. In other words, there's different ways to look, right? Sometimes looking is empathic. Sometimes looking is compassionate. And Betsy Torup suggests that the actions of Lot's wife can sort of help us think about the ethics of looking and to figure out when looking is empathic, witnessing, and when it is voyeurism. And this is what she teaches. And it's interesting. She wrote this in 2000, and I had this problem this week. She says, if we turn from the beggar on the street, if we avert our eyes from the person with a disability or a disfigurement, if we fail to look at the wounded person lying in the hospital bed, then how can we ever truly hope to make a difference to those who are suffering in our midst? So we have to look, but we can't look for too long. So I think this is my answer to knowing how to respond to the man with the sign. And I think it's a way for us to help to think about when we're looking at the wrong thing and we're maybe not looking with compassion. So obviously I'm not going to give him the finger. And I likely won't give him money every single time I pass him, which could be every day. But I'm going to think about stopping to talk to him, to look at him in the eye, to ask him his name, and tell him my name. Who knows? What would happen if enough of us did that and threw in a few dollars and some food now and then? Maybe his life would be spared. We saw what happened when Abraham looked at the right place and with the right compassion. He saved a life. Hagar looked and saved a life. Maybe this man's life could be spared. I know at least that his dignity will be. I hope you continue to think about this problem and maybe talk about it with me a little bit. But I think I at least have it resolved for the time being. Shabbat Shalom. We continue now with Aleinu, page 282. Please rise as you are able. Kaddish is on page 294. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and all those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us within the last week, Carol Black and Thomas Chisholm. Within the last 30 days, a Shoshim period, Bernard Block, Buzzy Block, Nancy Briskin, Betsy Friedberg, Velma Vitti Friedman, Jean Simon, and Jackie Student. We also remember those who died at this season and years past, whose yahrzeit we observe on this Shabbat. Meyer Berger, Leonard Cahan, Jenny Cantor, Milton Coffey, Hannah M. Cohen, Harold Cook, Sandra Dorfson, Edward Greenberg, Harold Eitzel, Melvin Eller, Don Fitzgerald Swidel, Tessie Freeberg, Samuel Jacobson, Edna Bell Calson, Clarin Leatrice Karsh, Stuart Klein, Karen Katofsky, Nathan Lodsberg, Alan Lefkowitz, Malcolm Levy, Barry Lormer, Susie Lippard, Lisa Little, Theodore Mallinger, Stanley Medwin, Harry Oster, M.J. Snyder, Robert F. Stone, Peter Taima, Joseph A. Wolf. And this Shabbat is the Hebrew yahrzeit of the 11 murdered at the Tree of Life building: Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. Are there any other names for Kaddish today? Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach yiruteh, v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon u'vyomechon, u'v'chayei techol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'yizman kari v'imru amen. V'hei shmei Rabbah mavarach, le'olam umei almaya, yitzbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitzba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Vita dar, vita lev, vita lal, shmei de kudasha, bircha. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran v'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huya seh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated. Our closing song will be a new one we haven't done in a pretty long time. Shir Hamalot on page 331. That'll be in just a moment. First, I'd like to thank Luke Ward for his technological expertise and his good heart. Cantor Laura Berman, thank you so much. Our music director, Don McGahan. Julie, thank you for lighting candles. Everyone, it's a pleasure to have you here in the room and also online. I'd like to acknowledge any of our veterans or all of our veterans, and thank you for your courage and your service to this country. I believe that's all of our announcements. And oh no, I'm sorry. I have this page. On Monday night, we have the Virtuoso Trio in the Music at Rodef Shalom series at 7 o'clock in Levy Hall. And on November 20th, which I guess is next weekend, Dacia, who is in the back, who is our garden director, will be hosting a winter garden preparations and plant swap. If you have any questions of what that means, I'm sure Dacia will be happy to answer those questions. Page 331, Shir Hamalot. Kiddush is on page 5. Hello. Please come get some challah. Bring your book up. Say Shabbat Shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min ha. Shabbat Shalom.
Good.